It's Platt, and today we try a beer from a Salt Lake City original. That's next to Platt's Beer of the Week. So the particular beer we have today is Outer Darkness. Comes to us from the fine folks at Squatters Brewing. A little background to Squatters Brewing. Squatters was founded in 1989 by a couple gentlemen, Jeff Polychronis and Peter Cole. Now these two gentlemen have apparently been business partners for a while, and just over a course of several business trips, they, late nights in a pub, kind of said, "Hey, we need a brew pub in Salt Lake City. We need this kind of atmosphere, this vibe, this kind of local scene." And so they went about touring roughly 40 different West Coast brew pubs, doing market research, of course, and kind of finalizing the idea and the concept and creating the plan. And finally, in 1989, they opened in downtown Salt Lake City, the first brew pub in Salt Lake City. They weren't the first brewery, but they were one of the early ones for sure. Today, there are 4 different locations throughout the area, including one in Park City and one in the airport there in Salt Lake City. Now, they ran the brewery for about between 20 and 25 years, and up until 2012, when they sold out to a hedge fund, private equity group, something like that. And I've talked about before, once you put in the time, the effort, and the money behind one of these things, there kind of becomes a point sometimes where, you're kind of ready to cash out. And that's what they did in 2012. Now, the private equity firm that bought it held it for about a year or two and then rolled it into something called Canarchy. This is one of these kind of craft brewery collective, similar to the one that had Kona and Red Hook, however, that eventually sold to Anheuser-Busch. It's where 4 or 5 of these breweries get together and try to create some kind of synergy and help with distribution, stuff like that. Anyway, that's what Canarchy was. They included brands like Cigar City, Deep Ellum, and another Utah brewery, Wasatch Brewing. Finally, this year, early in 2022, Canarchy was sold to Monster Energy. Monster's wanting to get in the alcoholic beverage business, so they basically bought their own division, as you would say, of alcoholic beverages. And they now control the brand. Apparently, though, in the negotiation or during this purchase, Monster was not so much wanting to run brew pubs or anything like that. They were just wanting the brand, to kind of utilize their distribution channel, stuff like that. So Jeff Polychronis and some other investors came back in and bought the pubs back. They now run the pubs again. They're more focused back on that local scene, locally sourcing the ingredients, stuff like that. Also, during the purchase, though, they also picked up Wasatch's pub. Apparently they had a couple different pubs too. So now I think the whole thing is called Salt Lake Brewing or something like that. But they're the pubs are kind of one company now. And even the brands are now Monsters, but the pubs, are kind of separate. They one of the things they do is they share their own, they have a mug club where you can, get discounts on swag, different merchandise, invite special events, keg tappings, what have you. Squatters does something that is quite interesting that if I'm ever up in Salt Lake during the wintertime, I'm going to check out. As some of you may or may not know, Salt Lake City hosted the Winter Olympics a while back and is somewhat of a winter wonderland, you might say, during that time of year. Well, Squatters has where you can reserve your own igloo to party in. That's right, you can have your own igloo. We're not even doing that in Vegas just yet, so that's kind of a cool idea. Real quick, let's talk about some of their other beers. Smaller line, but decent little variety. First is 147th West Broadway. This is 5% ABV. This is an IPA. It's a little low for an IPA, but we'll get into that. This is also 147 West Broadway is the address of the brew pub that's still open today, the original one. So that's kind of a homage to that. Next is Chasing Tail, again 5% ABV. This is an English style summer ale. Some people use the word, refer the term golden ale. Now you've already noticed that both beers are at a flat 5%. From what I gather, that's the limit, or was for a long time, limit on alcohol volume on beer that be sold outside of a liquor store. Anything above that had to be sold in a liquor store. Now I know they're tweaking that a little bit now, but I'm not sure how that affects what Squatters does inside their market and outside their market. And this next beer is kind of why I bring this up. Next is part of their Hop Rising series. It's called Texas Twister Double IPA. It's 9% ABV. However, it's only sold in the Texas market. Texas is a big enough market. Several of these breweries in the past have done Texas-only beers. First one I remember is Anheuser-Busch did one called Ziegenbock to kind of compete against Shinerbach, which was really taken off at the time. This particular beer I'm trying today is 10.5% ABV, but again, I'm in Las Vegas, a different jurisdiction, so I do find that dynamic a little interesting. Lastly, we have Full Suspension, again another 5% ABV beer. This is a pale ale that won gold at the Great American Beer Fest in 2001-2002 for the British bitter style category. Squatters, like I said, doesn't have a massive line. They're part of a larger portfolio, so they don't have to do everything. They don't do hard seltzers. Their only other products are a line of flavored sparkling waters, which is interesting. But again, kind of a unique situation they got going on there in Utah. With that being said, before we try this particular beer, let's check out the stats. So since I was earlier talking about kind of the trouble a craft brewery has to deal with in certain jurisdictions, I thought I would talk about the most favorable jurisdictions to open a craft brewery. Actually, this comes from a Forbes article. When researching this video, I kind of stumbled across, and it was about 2 years old, but Forbes did a article about the best cities to open a craft brewery. They end up listing 30 of them. Part of the parameters is the market, saturation, regulation, other factors, excise tax, are they beating you down with the, taxing on this stuff? And the number one city on there was Somerville, Massachusetts. Number two was Madison, Wisconsin. Both ranked pretty good, real low, or had real low excise taxes. Actually, Madison was lower than Somerville, but I think the difference was Somerville is a suburb of Boston, so you're outside of a major metropolitan area. Also, too, Madison, Wisconsin, even though it's one of the great party cities in the U.S., University of Wisconsin has quite a reputation. Wisconsin already has a little bit more of a beer culture, even though it's generally more mass-produced beer. The big breweries there, Miller, Milwaukee, but you also had, other big breweries there in the area. Milwaukee's Best, all those kind of big beer. I think that culture probably sticks out more than it does in Somerville, Mass. Probably more of a craft beer culture. But anyway, those are the top two on the list. One of the things that sticks out is 20 of the 30 cities are located out west. Craft beer scene's always been big out here, but there's still some untapped markets out here. Also, too, just regulation-wise, a little easier. What I also noticed on that list, though, there was none in Utah. No cities in Utah, and there's also really none in the South. These jurisdictions are still making it tough on breweries. The South, there are still counties in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi. They're still dry counties. And for those of you that can't comprehend this, there are entire counties here in the United States in 2022 that will not allow the selling of alcohol, no matter if you're 21 or 41, no matter if you're a veteran, a cop. We can't have devil alcohol in our county. And that definitely, again, makes it tough on a craft brewery. So some of these states are still just way behind on this kind of stuff. I know a couple years ago there was a thought, well, the South's the next hot market, growing population, strong economic base, this, that, and the other. They're just still way behind on the regulation. But anyway, I found that as an interesting article. Would love to hear feedback from you. Leave comments down below if you have a comment either way on that. Enough being said, let's drink a beer. Oh, that pours motor oil black. All right, we got about 1 finger width, a really nice dark khaki head. Let's give her a little bit of malt, but not powerful on the nose. Just a very faint nose of some chocolate. Let's give her a try. Ooh, that's nice. A lot more on the palate than the nose. Hits several points of the tongue. I get that chocolate, but I also get the coffee, espresso, but it's not astringent. I pick up almost some dark fruit in there. Maybe even a hint of molasses, even though I don't think they're putting molasses in there. Just really those dark, sweet, malty notes. Decent, full-bodied beer. The aftertaste, I'm going to say, is medium plus. It's not a long aftertaste, but it'll stay in your mouth for a little bit. Nice, full-bodied beer, but not viscous. It's not too over the top. 10.5%. You're going to feel it going down a little bit. It's definitely going to keep you warm in the wintertime if you're drinking in the igloo. Overall, nice, solidly executed beer. They didn't flavor it. There's nothing outrageous to it. Just a nice, well-executed Imperial Stout. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or beers that you'd like me to try, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.